Howdy folks, hope you're all having a good one, and welcome back to World of Warships with Rear Admiral Jingles, where today I figured it was about time, because the ship's been available for some time now, that we took a look at the new kid on the block, the Tier 10 US Navy destroyer, the USS Forrest Sherman, being sailed for us today by Montana Princess. Now, the good news is that while this is technically sort of a premium ship, it's not a premium ship that you have to pay money for. You can in fact buy it with coal in the armory, and coal is a currency that you earn just by playing the game. The bad news is that this is a ship with a fairly high skill floor, which is a fancy YouTube Playboy way of saying you really need to be reasonably good in order to get the most out of this ship, or anything out of this ship, for reasons which we're about to go into. Well, let's look at the good points first, because we can get the good points over really quickly, because there's only, well, realistically one good thing about this ship, and that's the guns. Despite the fact that this ship does only have 3 gun turrets, 2 at the rear, 1 at the front, and that each turret only boasts 1 gun, these 3 5-inch guns are still pretty damn potent. Not just because the turrets only take 4.5 seconds to rotate 180 degrees, but they can rotate a full 360 degrees, and they fire every 1.5 seconds. This ship has the fastest reload of any ship in World of Warships, which is more than a little ironic, really. You know, given that they introduced this ship at more or less exactly the same time that people discovered that thanks to World of Warships potato coding, you don't actually get any benefit from skills that buff your rate of fire when the guns are already firing as fast as this. Oh, you've probably noticed the torpedo angles. Yeah, that's not a bug. The Forrest Sherman comes with torpedoes, but that doesn't mean you're going to get much opportunity to use them. The torpedoes on this thing are terrible. Well, the torpedoes themselves are perfectly fine. They'll do 17,900 damage. They have a 66 knot speed and a 16.5 kilometer range. It's just the torpedo launchers that are absolutely terrible, with fixed firing angles. Oh, actually, let's see those guns in action. That Benson over there has nearly twice as many guns as the Forrest Sherman, and with or without help from the rest of his team, he is still going to lose this gunfight. Yeah, that's right. You want to smoke up there, sunshine. I don't think it's going to do him any good. Look at that rate of fire. That is just insane. And there's the first kill. There are now a couple of downsides, because the range of these guns is 12.6 kilometers, so he has to pop his smoke screen in order to go undetected, because any surviving enemy ships within 12.6 kilometers could still see him for the next 20 seconds. The good news, of course, is that this is an American smoke screen, and they're some of the best smoke screens in the game. They take forever to deploy, so you can spread them over a wide area, and once they have deployed, they last forever. The downside is if you're the one doing the actual spotting, yeah. They can't see into the smoke, you can't see out of it either. Oh, wow, one of those torpedoes actually hit something. Well, that was a spot look. Anyway, teammate to the rescue. Bless you, HMS Lightning, for popping out of the smoke in order to relight up the targets so that Montana Princess can continue farming damage. He's using the high explosive shells, but that's another feature of the Forrest Sherman. It has access to semi-armor piercing, which is definitely the ammunition of choice to use on this thing when you're shooting at lightly armoured targets, because it will just do more damage. Against battleships like the Zeton or the Prinz Ruprecht over there, the high explosive is the better choice, at least until the superstructure becomes damage saturated. So, the Forrest Sherman. The guns, as you can see, are pretty great. Oh, it also comes with hydro, because as we all know, smoke screens are torpedo magnets, and he does have the hydro running, which is why he spotted that lot. He's going to have to be careful and stop shooting now though, because in order to avoid those torpedoes, the middle of his ship is going to edge out of that smoke screen. He'll be fine now though. See, that's where all of the spotting happens, both to and from. If the middle of the ship is out of the smoke screen, and there's anybody within detection range, or if your guns are firing and there's anybody within gun range, they will spot you. The middle of the ship is where the magic happens. It also works the other way. If you can edge the back end of your ship or the front end of your ship out of the smoke screen just enough so that the middle of the ship is outside the smokescreen boundary, then you will be able to spot as if you weren't in the smokescreen. Oh, there's kill number 2, and it's the midway. It's always satisfying when you get a carrier kill, particularly this early in the game. Although, well, it's not going to allow him to demonstrate the other, well, let's be generous and call it feature of the Forrest Sherman, and that's its superior anti-aircraft firepower, backed up by the defensive anti-aircraft fire consumable. Because the Forrest Sherman was, of course, primarily designed for anti-submarine and anti-aircraft warfare, which is why it only has 3 guns, because, well, surface warfare wasn't really a thing for destroyers built post-World War II. At least, not until they started strapping lots and lots of missiles onto them. And I do hesitate to use the word missiles, because I don't want to give wargaming any ideas, but when you start to introduce Cold War vessels like this into the game, you kind of have to make the guns really, really, really good, because the torpedoes are terrible, and it only has 3 guns. Fortunately, as you can see, the guns on the Forrest Sherman are really, really, really good. Because if they weren't, this ship would absolutely suck. It's also not very fast. I don't believe we've covered that part yet. This is one of the downsides of... I mean, the ship has fairly good stealth. You can get it down to 6.5 kilometer surface detection, which isn't fantastic, but it's certainly not bad. Oh, he just picked up another kill. Yeah. But that's the issue with having great stealth and terrible speed, because the Forrest Sherman has terrible speed. Its top speed is only 33.9 knots, and that absolutely sucks. I mean, it's bad when you have a tier 10 destroyer that can only do 35 knots, and the Forrest Sherman can't even do that. So if you do get to within 6.5 kilometers of an enemy ship, and your smoke's on cooldown, it's going to take you a long time to disengage, unless there's a handy island nearby that you can duck behind. Or, in the case of the Forrest Sherman, it's more likely that you just gun down whoever's spotting you. But, well, that does kind of bring its own problems, because if you aren't shooting and you get spotted, that means there's an enemy ship within 6.5 kilometers, or you've been radared, but let's just focus on visual spotting for the moment. And if you have to gun down that ship because there are no islands for you to hide behind and your smoke screen's on cooldown, well, now you're going to get spotted by anything at the maximum range of your guns, 12.6 kilometers. And you still only do 33.9 knots in order to disengage, so yeah. You can see why I say this ship has a high skill floor. You really do need to know what you're doing in order to get the most out of it. I think it definitely promotes and rewards an aggressive playstyle. The thing is, while it is very, very easy to play aggressively in World of Warships, it's substantially more difficult to play aggressively and survive in World of Warships. This is an art that is lost on a fair number of the player base. He's spotted again. Oh, that looks bad. Yeah, that was bad. There goes the smoke. Yeah, I thought so. He did manage to flip that cap before smoking up, however. In fact, I think he may have been under the impression that he was the one spotting those targets. Well, he was spotting at least one of them, but not the one he's shooting at, so he could have probably gotten away with smoking up before he started shooting, but hey, there was no real way of knowing that until he popped the smoke, so yeah, whatever. And yeah, there's a spit of land between him and the Zeton over there, so he's probably not even the one spotting him. That's likely to be the Lightning down to the south, who's still kicking. Oh, he's switched to the semi-armor piercing shells now, trying to rack up some bonus damage on the Zeton's huge superstructure. But I think the Zeton may get away with it. As far as the overall flow of the battle goes, both teams have 2 cap circles, although it looks like somebody's just sneaked into one of the enemy cap circles, so that's good. They've just managed to get another kill. They're nearly 100 points ahead. Although that's down to the kills rather than the cap control. This could still go either way. Wow, the Zeton is still spotted. Oh, no, he's gone. And then... wait for it. Hydro? Well, that's not the Thunderer. Is the... really? It's the Zeton, isn't it? Well, I appreciate that he's probably upset of having all of his health chiselled away like that. But I'm not entirely sure that was worth it. Oh noes, I am on very, very low health. Just a few more shots will kill me, but I have managed to go undetected and hide behind this handy island. Now what shall I do? Stay here and wait for my heal to come off cooldown? or rush forward straight into the gun sights of the person that reduced me to extremely low health and die just in order to get a few thousand extra damage done. If that was your answer, then you too fail at battleshipping. I mean, he did do some damage, and he did get Montana Princess spotted again. Not sure it was worth losing his ship over, but hey, your mileage may vary. Anyway, 3 caps under their control now, and they've got a 2-to-1 kill ratio over the enemy team. Oh, aircraft, no, it's alright, don't panic. It's just depth charge strike aircraft. They can't actually spot you. At the very worst, all they're going to do is troll you into shooting at them with your anti-aircraft guns. But even that isn't going to reveal your position on the map. At least, not as in make you visible. Anybody watching may see your anti-aircraft tracer, but that's just going to give them a general idea of your location, or confirm that there is a ship hidden over there in the first place. And Montana Princess is not falling for that old gag. His AA guns are off. If you look down there next to his consumables on the left-hand side, you'll see. You do that, by the way, by pressing the P key. People keep asking, how exactly do you turn your anti-aircraft guns off? Press P. It disables your AA guns and your secondaries. Now then, more victims. He's probably going to be extremely wary of getting shot at by the Thunderer, because the Thunderer's high explosive shells are no joke. He's well inside detection range. 1 torpedo, which is all he had spare, for the Thunderer. And honestly, I think this may have been a bit of a mistake, because he immediately started shooting up the Shikishima. And that warned the Thunderer. You can see the Thunderer hauling ass backwards there, dodged the torpedo, although it would have taken more than 1 torpedo to sink him. So yeah, that was probably a mistake, although it wasn't a big one. I mean, he took some hits from the Shikishima's secondaries, but he wasn't going to take any hits from the Shikishima's main batteries because they were pointing elsewhere, and are continuing to point elsewhere, because he's just fired them elsewhere. And he's continuing to reverse slightly and just keep that spit of land between himself and the centre point on the Shikishima, which has allowed him to do this and remain undetected. Oh, hang on a second. He just scored the Confederate award, and certain skills just triggered, reducing the reload of his guns even further, as well as his torpedoes, which means he has Bull Halsey as the captain of this ship. I wonder if that reload reduction is actually happening, because, reload bug on rapid-firing ships. I mean, it kind of looks like it is. Wow, look at that rate. Wow, okay, there's the Kraken, there goes the Shikishima. Where did his health go? I mean, okay, Montana Princess wasn't the only one shooting at him, but 170,000 damage, and almost none of that was done with the torpedoes. Most of that was done with these 3 guns. Yeah. He's going for the Thunderer. Now, he's not really going to have a torpedo angle. And if the Thunderer's guns are pointing this way, and they're not, well, so much for the Thunderer. Kill number 6. Yeah, these guns are really, really spicy. Which is just as well, because they are literally the only good thing about this ship. I mean, well, not the only thing. The stealth is okay. It's not bad. It's certainly not great. The speed is terrible. And it's also very, very sluggish. I mean, it feels more like you're sailing a light cruiser than a destroyer. It just doesn't maneuver quickly in the way that you would expect a destroyer to. It feels a bit more like a Russian destroyer, except a really slow Russian destroyer. If it wasn't for these 3 guns, this ship would be absolutely terrible. And just think about that for a minute. Because if I'd asked you, I don't know, 2 years ago, what was the best gunboat in the game, you'd probably say the Harugumo, which has similar characteristics. I mean, it's not very fast, although it's not as slow as this, and it's kind of sluggish, but it's got 10 100mm guns. They have a 3-second reload. The Forrest Sherman has a 1.5 second reload, but the Forrest Sherman only has 3 guns. And if I'd said to you 2 years ago that the best gunboat destroyer in World of Warships was going to be an American destroyer with only 3 guns, you would have laughed me right off the internet. Then again, if I'd said a year ago that the best gunboat in World of Warships was going to be a Swedish destroyer with only 4 guns, you would have laughed me right off the internet. But then the Halland existed, and now the Forrest Sherman does. And while I'm not quite confident enough to say that it is better than the Harugumo, if I was in a Harugumo and I saw a Forrest Sherman, I'd think twice about getting into a gunfight. And there's kill number 7 on the Daring, which puts the team up to just a hair under 1,000 points, which means that before he can swing the guns around and finish off the Grozavoy as well, the match ends and the Grozavoy doesn't have to suffer the humiliation of being absolutely obliterated by a ship that only has 3 guns. Now, if you're wondering how the hell can Montana Princess do as well as that in a ship that's only just come out, well, he didn't just get lucky. Montana Princess is, of course, the artist formerly known as Flambass, and before Flambass was a live streamer, he used to play destroyers competitively in, well, things like the original King of the Sea tournament. So he knows a thing or two about destroyers. So it's not really surprising that he's able to, well, basically make a ship like the Forrest Sherman sit up and beg. And in case you were wondering, of the 177,000 damage that he did, only 10,000 was with his torpedoes. The rest of it was all his guns and the fires that he set, although the vast majority was the guns, with 133,000 damage coming from these 3 guns. That is just ridiculous. So yes, the Forrest Sherman, coal ship, technically a premium, but you can buy it for coal in the armory. Coal is, of course, an in-game currency. You don't have to put your hand in your pocket, but be careful what you wish for, because this ship definitely requires a good player in order to get the most out of it. Hope you enjoyed today's video, and as always, take care, stay safe, and I'll catch you next time.